Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Week 12 edition of Manz and Maker, the preeminent DFS show of our times. And today, the day after Mansgiving, I should probably mute my screen. I am joined by a truly prestigious guest, okay? This is a man's you can find on the Roto Jizz airwaves. This is a man's you can find spilling ink on the action networks. This is a man's who is now splashing around in the Twitch and YouTube waters with greats like myself. Anthony Amicsta, welcome to the program, my bro.
Man, really appreciate it, man. I mean, just an honor, again, to be on the program, and obviously an inspiration for what I'm doing right now with the Twitch and the YouTubes.
That's what I hear, dude. You know, everybody, comes to me, kind of the godfather of this space, and they ask for advice and tips and stuff. So to see you in here and flourishing, why don't you tell people what you got going on? Because you went from, as far as I know, not doing that much video stuff, and now you're streaming like 5 days a week.
Yeah, I'm doing, pretty much every day, trying to get a stream up on Twitch. We're talking about bets. We're talking about DraftKings picks. We're talking Showdown. Really trying to cover the gamut. So a lot of really good stuff over there on the Twitch. Definitely hit the follow button over there if you get a chance.
Nice. For sure. I got links to Anthony's YouTube channel down below. So be sure to check him out. So yeah, we're bringing Anthony on. We did the Thursday slate with Roto Bonds on Wednesday. That was a really fun show. I don't know about you, Amicsta. I took a little bit of a bath yesterday. It did not pan out how I'd hoped. I thought the Falcons were going to keep it closer. How did you come out?
Oh, I mean, it was terrible. The Thursday night game, like Sam Darnold's long lost brother caught a touchdown for the Saints. Tom Arnold, no chance at making money.
Dude, it was like I ended up getting on Josh Hill as my punt tight end. And if you told me 4 non-Kamara and Michael Thomas guys were going to score touchdowns and one of them wasn't Hill or Watson, I would have said, go take a hike. What the hell happened there, dude? The Arnold? What the hell?
It's unbelievable. I think Sean Payton just knows his quarterback is one of the best and just wants to troll everyone. Like, look who I can throw touchdowns to that you won't have in your lineup.
I know, dude. I know. And then the second that we talk ourselves into, okay, let's just go naked breeze. We'll go naked breeze in our lineups. Then Michael Thomas is going to go off for 200 and 2 tutties. That's just how it works.
Yep.
Nice. We got some of you guys trickling in the chat. Kyle Richmond, sup mans, get paid, get laid. That's right. We got Trevor Marshall, the #1 Geo truther of our times, saying Geo Turkey Snuff Nard. Great pun. Great Gio. But we will make sure Anthony Amico's delivers some Gio Bernard takes for you. Anthony, I don't know if you're familiar with this subplot, but there is a very shadowy contingency of hardcore Gio Bernard truthers who also love this program. Don't ask me how it's happened, but it's something we now have to deal with.
That's great. I mean, anytime that you have people who love the best running back in the Bengals backfield and also this show, you just have to take it on.
Look at you, dude, just pandering right into Trevor's hands. I mean, these guys send me DMs. They go, oh, good show, man, but you forgot to talk about Gio Bernard. No shit, he wasn't playing, and he's been out for 4 weeks. We're going to give the people what they want. So, yeah, continue, guys, to drop questions in the chat. This will be a more typical Man's Maker show. And yeah, we will bounce off all of your questions onto Amicsta. He's a very sharp, very bright mind. He will help us out. Anthony, also, you're doing a lot of you do the Laying the Points podcast on Roto Jizz, lots of picking against the spread too. So what's your kind of overall view of this slate, maybe even taking into consideration some of the more interesting over-unders and stuff like that?
I mean, it's a really interesting slate, obviously, because we have the 3 best offenses not playing. The Chiefs and the Rams are on bye. The Saints played yesterday. So, we have a lot of the quote-unquote bad teams playing, a bunch of big spreads. So you're going to have to come up with really what game has the best chance to shoot out, because it does seem based on the lines that a lot of these games aren't going to be close. So you have to find the game that is going to be close, the game that has, high pace and high scoring potential.
Yeah, and this is a little theory I have, and as a DFS guy and a content guy, let me know if you think there's any merit to this man's theory. My thought is a lot of the pods and the content creators this week devoted a lot of time and resources to the Thursday slate, and I don't see as much content on the main slate this week. It is starting to trickle out a little bit more. My theory is there a chance that maybe the mega chalk doesn't quite coalesce and harden in a way that it has in a typical week where where we get that full build up to the main slate. Could I maybe be onto something a little bit there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think anytime you have to make plays like after content is published, like a lot of people decided to do their content early instead of late this week because of the holiday. So, a lot of that stuff's going to change. It's already changed probably. And, through the weekend, it'll probably change even more. So, yeah, I definitely think that the stuff that comes up over the next couple of days is going to be even less owned, even less popular, even less, commonly known than it would otherwise.
Yeah, and it does also feel like there's a lot of interesting injury situations to monitor right now. We just got some, it seems like pessimistic news about AJ Green going. That could have some implications for Tyler Boyd. There's, it looks like Devin Funchess is officially doubtful. Torrey Smith questionable. Everyone, I assume DJ Moore becomes the chalk if both those guys scratch, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's coming off a monster game with those guys healthy. So I definitely think that DJ Moore is finally making his way into the public train of thought. I mean, you played him last week, Manz, in the listener league for On the Daily, and vaulted you into second place. So I think the people are finally catching on.
I forgot about that, and I wanted to hold on to first so bad because I was going to message you and Miss Lamarcas and tell him that I needed a 5-minute segment on your program hailing Man's the king of that contest. And of course, I ended up losing by a few spots. Still took second, though. Was Lamarcas sufficiently tilted by my impressive performance?
I mean, he's worried that I'm going to replace him, honestly, with a potentially better and obviously more handsome co-host.
That's right. Yeah. Watch out. Yeah. If you guys don't know, they host this good podcast, but Anthony's co-host, Mr. Miss Lamarcas, dude, he was one of the big haters on the Manz in the gambling Olympics. He said he was shorting me in every contest. What do I do? Hang on one sec here. What do you see right here, Lamarcas? That's third place finish in the gambling Olympics, bro. Lick my nuts. Oh, yeah,
that's great.
Little rivalry. And yeah, if you guys aren't, I play in that contest every single week. It's very similar sizing to the Man's GPP fun contest with RotoJizz listeners. So definitely hop in that one. And I should also mention, we had the Turkey Day slate. I also just created the week 12 Man's GPP. The link to that is below. Those have been filling out by Saturday evening, Sunday morning. So hop in that if you'd like to compete against the legend Pete Manzanelli. I don't think I've ever won my own GPP. That's pretty sad, huh?
Well, I mean, how can you get people to play if you're just going to win every week, right?
It's a long con, right? Because I'm doing all these $10 ones, and then I'm going to up it to like $500, and that's the one I'm going to bink.
Yep.
That's it. Okay, let's start diving into some stuff here now. One of the other most interesting hot topics this week is going to be how to approach the Baltimore Ravens, specifically the Lamar Jackson / Gus Edwards show. Now, I've seen you on your Twitters, dude, going full Zapruder film on Lamar Jackson. You're looking like frame by frame at this guy. You're like, dude, do you see how his pinky's turned up there? I think this bodes well for him. So you are the preeminent scholar on Lamar Jackson. Give us the Lamar Jackson takes.
I mean, I just think that he's amazing, right? Like, he's very unique. We've never really seen a player like Jackson who's like not only very clearly a gifted runner, but like the coaches agree and are willing to deploy him that way. Like when they did it with Tim Tebow, it felt like it was kind of like, all right, we got to play this guy. He stinks. Like, we're just going to run him. But with Jackson, it's like, they traded to draft him. They want him. They know what he can do. And the coaching staff has, had experience with guys like Kaepernick, Mike Vick, who have been runners as well. So they know how to utilize Jackson the best. Had the most rush attempts of any quarterback ever last week in his first start. I mean, I think that the sky's the limit for this guy. When he can score 20 DraftKings points without scoring a touchdown, that's pretty special. And, I just think that as he continues to grow, if he can become a better passer, he's going to crush. And, this week he plays the Walking Dead Oakland Raiders, so that'll definitely help.
Yeah, so let's talk about this from both a cash and GPP, even though I have retired from cash games after I went 1 for 40 in my last week's cash games. But Lamar Jackson, I assume he's going to be pretty trendy for cash. 5,700 on DraftKings allows you to do a lot of different things. Where do you think he's going to slot in say, Millie ownership?
Probably around like 10 or 15%. The fact that the prices come up, I think will keep him away from being like 20% plus own chalk. We haven't seen a ton of that this year at quarterback. And there are a bunch of other quarterback options that I think people are going to find appealing, like Jameis Winston and Andrew Luck, like guys who have really just crushed when they've been given opportunity. So Jackson is going to have, a nice core of people that are going to be willing to play him, but I would say nothing too crazy.
And when we're talking about playing him, and let's obviously get to Gus Edwards, but are there any pass catchers that we would entertain? Willie Snead seemed like his favorite target last week.
Yeah, I think Snead is the right guy. I mean, the Ravens are like packaging these like really low A-dot throws with Jackson. I think it makes a lot of sense. 8 targets last week for Snead. Really has been coming along target-wise anyway. 8, 8, 11, 7, 10, 7, 7. Like he's been used a lot as it is. And I think that when you have a quarterback that's going to be attempting a lot of low A-dot passes, that naturally feeds into Snead's role.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. It's a bummer that the John Brown dream has died, but I guess there's maybe a chance that we get a play action shot play after they load the box up on Lamar. Maybe Brown gets loose, but that's too thin, right?
Yeah, it's very similar to like how he felt about John Brown the last like 3 years. Like maybe he scores a long touchdown, but that's probably it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the running backs. Everyone has Bus Edwards fever, dude. There's not a cure for it. He's 4,400 on DraftKings, coming off a monster game, 117 yards, a tutty. Looks like the right-hand man to Lamar Jackson. Now, Alex Collins did miss practice Wednesday and Thursday. He did return in limited fashion today. What kind of touch distribution are you envisioning between the Bus and Mr. Collins?
I think Edwards is going to lead it. I'd imagine it's still, somewhat of a committee. Collins was the back that the team favored going into the season, but I do think that Edwards is probably a little bit of a better match for what they're trying to do with Jackson, especially all that zone read stuff. Really need that primary back to be willing to get downhill and get the yards that are necessary. Not really sure that Collins has been that guy this year. He's been a little more tentative. Really hasn't been, nearly as good as he was last season when I think a lot of people thought he was breaking out. So I'd imagine Edwards leads the committee, but I'm sure Collins will be involved, maybe like a 60-40, 70-30 kind of deal. But of course, Jackson is like the true RB1 in the offense.
And let's talk tournament lineups. If you are using Lamar, what percentage of those lineups would you also be using Gus with him?
Maybe like 10%. I mean, it's a weird correlation, right? Because you imagine that if Jackson runs well, that Edwards will also run well, but you're really not drawing to like a receiving touchdown from Edwards. Like it doesn't really seem very likely. Running quarterbacks overall don't really throw much to the running back. Edwards didn't have any targets last week. Really only has a handful of them all season. So it's an interesting correlation, because both guys could definitely get loose against Oakland, just like last week. I mean, both guys could go over 100 yards and score a touchdown. But it's not like a true correlation that I think has like really high upside to win you a GPP. It's just something that goes nice together.
Okay, and then just to make sure I'm covering it from every angle, will you be sprinkling Gus into some non-Lamar lineups then as well?
Oh, yeah, you have to. I mean, the fact that Collins is going to be active likely is going to keep that Edwards ownership down. Like if he wasn't going to play at all, he'd probably be super chalk. We'd say Edwards like 25% plus. But if we can get him 15% or less because Collins is active, I think you definitely want to use him and be a little overweight versus the field.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Let's transition to the quintessential segment on this show, the favorite sneaky shootout game. And I normally like to set the table with what I believe is the chalk shootout game. I believe everybody is on this Tampa Bay, San Francisco over under a 54. Assuming that generates most of the chalk, where are we looking for a big point total, maybe a little bit under the radar?
I mean, I think that the Colts and Dolphins game definitely has a chance to shoot out. I mean, no one doubts that Andrew Luck and the Colts can, score a bunch of points. Luck's had 3 or more touchdowns in every game for the better part of like a month and a half. But I think that on the Dolphins side, with Tannehill coming back, I mean, I'm definitely on the record as saying that Tannehill isn't a huge upgrade over Brock Osweiler, but what if he is, right? And then we have this offense that has kind of been missing their leader for most of the year, still has some really intriguing weapons like Kenny Stills, and really whoever else is active between like Devontae Parker and Danny Amendola, those kind of guys. There's definitely potential here for a shootout if Gase has just been missing Tannehill and can kind of get the offense going. They've always been pretty pass heavy, especially when trailing. So there's definitely a lot of upside here for a lot of points. I mean, the total is rising. It's up to 51 right now. So I think that if Miami can compete a little bit better than Tennessee did last week with Blaine Gabbert, we could see a really high total.
Yeah, no, I like that call. We got Trevor in the chat bringing up a very, very good point. Frank Gore revenge game. Any interest there?
I mean, Lamarcus actually on this one. He thinks that Gore always has one of these like 20-point games out of nowhere. I mean, I'm not on it just because I think that this is going to be a mostly passing game, and I don't think Gore really has a predominant pass catching role. But yeah, I mean, if people are on that, I can't blame them. Certainly, Gore has proven me wrong more times than he's proven me right.
Yeah, and though I do hear a lot of people are talking about wanting to use Luck in cash, but if we want to win a GPP with Luck, we're going to need to pinpoint which of these pass catchers, which of these Mo Alley Coxes is going to be scoring. I assume Hilton will be popular coming off the big game, back at home again. I guess there is some concerns about Xavier Howard's. What are your thoughts about who to stack Luck with if we are looking to go to this game?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to have some exposure to Hilton if you're going to stack Luck, but I think we got to go right back to Jack Doyle. Continues to see the majority of the snaps at the tight end position, way outplaying Eric Ebron, and he had 4 targets last week. I mean, I think that if the game was closer and they had to continue to play hard, that he could have approached 6, 7, 8 targets. And the Dolphins, for the better part of like a couple of years now, have been what Al Zeidenfeld calls like a flowchart team against tight ends. Like the tight ends just do really well against them. So I think that we're due for a little bit of regression for Doyle in terms of the targets and also just the touchdown scoring. I mean, they can't all go to Eric Ebron. I think that Doyle's definitely shown himself to be a short A-dot fixture in the offense. So I think that he is like a sub 5% play that can get you exposure to the game, and that's what you want.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I love the Doyle call. I actually think this is, for what a wasteland tight end has been this year, it's a pretty good tight end week. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, tight end has been like a stone disaster for the last, 4 weeks or so. But we have Ertz, we have Kittle, we have like the social experiment of Gronk at 5,100. Like, just a lot to consider this week. And of course, in the Tampa game, we have Cameron Brate with OJ Howard out. He's probably going to be a chalky play. So there's definitely a lot to like this week at tight end. It's about time, and these guys. We don't need the double punt tight end this week. We can play real dudes.
I know, dude. I so badly in my Thursday, the Sunday slates, I wanted to jam in, a little Robert Tonyans, a little Josh Hills, the double punt. I think it's dead this week, though, guys. We're gonna pay up. It's gonna be the double pay up tight end week. I need to workshop that title. Jason in the chat, though, brings up a guy that I feel like might get chalky because Levitans has been pushing him this week. It's Marlon Mack. Talk a little bit about, similar with I know it's different, but, Lamar and Gus Edwards, Luck and Mack, that type of correlation. Is it viable to play those two together?
I mean, it's not a correlation play that I will be making. But I do have great interest in Mack. I mean, I think you want exposure to the Colts game really like in any lineup, right? Like whether you're stacking Luck or you're playing Mack and like the Colts defense. I think that those are plays you want to make. The Mack Colts defense stack was something that I wrote up this week at Labs. Just has really dominated the work when the game has been close. Like he's clearly their preferred back in game scripts that matter. And then in game scripts that don't matter, we see Jordan Wilkins, we see Nyheim Hines carry the ball a little bit more. But Mack, I think in a game that could potentially shoot out, that could have, feature a lot of short yardage scores. Mack is the guy. He's had 70+% of the work over the last month in games when the score is between, Colts trailing by 3 and leading by 10. And in all other game scripts, he's seen, around 40% of the work. So pretty clear that they want to use him when the game is close. And if that happens this week, it's even reasonably close. I think Mack could definitely crush.
Yeah, he's interesting from an ownership perspective just because he is coming off 2 kind of, let's say, subpar games. He had the monster game 3 weeks ago against Oakland, and now he's been quiet the past 2 against, Tennessee and Jacksonville. Now he's at home again. You would think recency bias might push it down a little bit, but now with the sharps and his price tag, it seems like what I would guess he's going to be maybe 18 to 20% owned when the dust settles.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But I think that he's like a classic play that like gets higher owned as you go up the buy-in level because He is a really good play, but I think that at the lower buy-ins, people are going to look more at the game logs and see that he hasn't really popped. So I think at the lower buy-in levels, you may still be able to get him like under 15%. And then at the nosebleed section type stakes that I know you play, Manz, Mac may be heavily owned.
That's always the worry, dude, when we're duking it out in these Thunderdomes, these Superdomes, these Gittin Domes, anything can happen. Yeah, it does seem, at the beginning of the year, everybody was jamming in all the studs at running back. This week you have Mac down there low, and then you have this mid-range, which is kind of intriguing, the Chubb, Fournette, Joe Mixon range, all those guys in good spots, affordable, less than 7,000. Do you think running back ownership is going to be pretty spread out this week?
I could see that. I mean, I think that there's a lot of really good options in like the 7K and above range between Saquon, Gordon, McCaffrey, James Conner, and David Johnson, who's kind of come on the last few weeks. In addition to the guys you mentioned, Mixon, Fournette, like Chubb. Yeah, like I think it's going to be way spread out this week. We don't have Gurley. We don't have, like the guy that everyone's going to want to play. I think Gordon is likely the highest owned running back of the week, but certainly all these other guys are going to have, spots in people's lineups.
Yeah, Trevor Marshall is mentioning Aaron Jones in the chat. Yeah, he's not on the main slate, but obviously hard not to like Aaron Jones. Let's get your lock button play. Amicsta, the one guy when you have that blank slate of an empty roster, he's the guy you're clicking there first to build your lineups around.
I mean, it's Melvin Gordon. I mentioned him before. I think that you have to have him this week. The snap counts have been way higher versus what they were, a few weeks ago, and he was a little dinged up, and Austin Eckler was playing well. Now it's Eckler who's a little banged up. I know Gordon was a little limited in practice, but he should be a full go for Sunday's game. And Arizona is way worse on the ground in terms of defense than they are through the air. So I think that we're going to see a guy who, has great access to receiving work and already is like by far the lead runner in the backfield, have a shot to really crush. He showed up in Hermsmeyer's air yards by low model, which I thought was really interesting since he's obviously a running back. So we have a bunch of upside that we can capture in the receiving game on top of his already, really high floor via the rush game.
Yeah, the injury thing is interesting because I agree with everything you laid out. It looks like an incredible spot. He practiced in full Wednesday and then popped up with this. It sounds like they were listing it as a hamstring / knee issue. So have we gotten the practice report from him today yet?
No, I haven't seen anything yet from him today. It's just, again, the last practice, he was practicing in full. So, I mean, I think that this is just like the hamstring injury was something that he was dealing with before, and that was what caused him to miss like the London game and the next game. So I think that this is just like a recurring thing that they're keeping their eye on. I don't think it's anything new necessarily that we have to worry about.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at, obviously they play in the late game. You have to use a decent amount of salary, but there would be some pivots if something random were to come up. You could pivot over to James Conner potentially. So yeah, definitely something to consider. I do think, put him in your flex spot and make sure you do have some swaps in case there is something funky with him in warmups. Let's now try to save some money. Amicsta, do you have a stone punt play or I'll give you a stone-ish min punt play that you're liking this week?
I really like David Moore of Seattle. He's 3,700. They play Carolina, who's given up 22 pass touchdowns this season. And Moore, despite his low price, has been really similar in target share to Tyler Lockett and to Doug Baldwin. 8 targets last week. And really has been a consistent part of the offense all year. So I kind of feel like his range of outcomes, especially playing with Russell Wilson, who has touchdown upside really anytime he throws the ball. Moore has been like the most consistently deep targeted player in the offense. So I feel like his range of outcomes is pretty similar to Baldwin and to Lockett, but he's priced way, way down in compared to them. I mean, both of those guys are in like the low 5K range, and Moore's down at 3,700. So I really like Moore this week as a GPP punt play. I think, again, he has touchdown upside. He's had, multi-touchdown games. He's had weeks in a row where he's scored. So I think that he is a good play.
I like that call. It sounds like Sutton might be a trendy punt play, but I don't know if there's that much difference between Moore and Sutton, the way they're being used, their touchdown upside, and you're going to get him what, $800 less or $700 less, plus probably 10 to 15 percentage points less owned.
Yeah, definitely. And Sutton really hasn't shown us a ceiling yet. Like, hasn't had a game, I don't even think, of 11 DraftKings points at any point this year. So it seems to be like a guy that was a good play in the 3K range and really isn't a good play in the 4K range. So we'll see.
Yeah, dude, it's funny. I read a statistic today that kind of blew my mind. So Seattle leads the league in rushing attempts per game with 32.3, yet they've still scored 76.67% of their touchdowns through the air, which is the second highest rate in the league. Like, that just is a very bizarre statistical anomaly to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Schottenheimer theory of use your best player the least amount between the 20s and the most amount in the red zone. I don't really get it either.
Yeah, but no, it is true. Like, yeah, they're running nonstop between the 20s, and then it seems like they go, if they're playing 3 downs, at least 2 of them, if not 3, are pass plays in the red zone.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a little GPP sprinkle for you guys. A nice call there. I doubt he will be higher owned than what, 5% at the most.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Maybe 50% after this Manz bump, dude. I mean, talk about moving the needle, this program.
I mean, have we been recording this in Manz Labs? Can we run back the model? Do we have the data to support this?
That's true. We do need to back test some of this stuff. I mean, it's why I struggle to give out my conviction plays, dude, because I'm really worried that everyone's just going to be copy and pasting my lineup, and that's not good for the DFS industry,
No, definitely not.
I'm trying to teach people how to fish. I want to give people the tools in the framework so they can be successful with their own brains. I can't just give you the answers, dude. People will not grow as humans, as individuals, as DFS players.
Just, further proof of your how giving you are to the industry.
That's right. I apologize. I'll step down from my soapbox, but this is a topic very near and dear to my heart. I see these lineups in the Manz GPP, and they just have Manz's mind written all over them. So, but I get it. If I had access to such an intellectual individual as myself, I would want to tail that as well.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for you, Zach Line is not on the main slate, so you don't have to worry about him getting poached.
It is tough, dude, but what I do have is my dude Kyle Juszczyk's in the highest over-under of the slate. I mean, I got to have a little sprinkle.
Yeah, I think so.
That's right. Speaking of that game, where do you think Breida's ownership is going to fall? Because that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, including myself, have been talking about the pass game. So I'd imagine Breida comes in under 15%. And Tampa is really been one of the worst run defenses in football over the past month or so. Like, they just have so many injuries at linebacker. It's really killed them in terms of their run defense. We just saw Saquon go off for a big game against them. So definitely think Breida can do that. He's a spark score legend. And I mean, the guy doesn't die. Like, he's had like 6 injuries that I feel like would have ended the season for like any other running back. And he keeps playing and just had a 100-yard game in his last contest. Alfred Morris is not really in the picture anymore. So I think this is his show.
Yeah, dude, I like it. I like it all a lot. He's averaging 5.6 yards per carry. Shanahan is actually one of those smart coaches who quickly realized this Alfred Morris experiment is done. Let's just give it to our best player, which is Matt Breida. So I think that definitely sets up well. And like you said, if everybody's on the passing game here, obviously Kittle is just a sick play this week. But it seems like Breida might be the leverage on those higher owned plays in this game. Yeah,
I mean, I've been touting the Nicky Two Sticks, the Nick Mullins stack, but I think Breida is definitely a nice play, and Breida is someone that you can play with Mullins for sure. I mean, he's had some targets over the last few weeks.
That's true. We got Jason in the chat. This is a good question. Will Ertz and Wentz bounce back and be low owned?
Well, I'm sure that they'll be lower owned than they were previously, but they play the Giants, and they're pretty big favorites, 5.5 points. And especially since I think the narrative is still there that the Giants can't defend tight ends, I don't think that they're going to be like super low owned, probably under 20%. I mean, Ertz last week was super chalk. But yeah, I mean, I think Ertz will definitely bounce back. I don't really know about Wentz. The offensive line is still a concern for me. He really hasn't played that great this year. So I feel definitely a lot more confident about Ertz than I do Wentz. But I think that they'll still be not terribly owned, but not unowned either.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are starting to get excited about the Giants. They want to use Eli because of the secondary is so depleted. They want to use Odell Beckham. I don't know, man. These division games and how much Eli's getting sacked and what a funk the Eagles are in. This is kind of a stay away game for me. Or am I missing something?
Yeah, I don't love it. I mean, the Giants defense has been not great, and the Eagles defense also hasn't been very good. So I think like one-off plays in this game are okay, but I'm not really looking to stack it. I don't think it's going to go off. I mean, these are just two teams that are in a really bad way. Like this could very easily just be a car crash, like 21-10 kind of game, and no one really sees a lot of fantasy value.
Yeah, no, I feel you. There is a game I want to talk about. We haven't touched on it at all. I don't think any plays either. And that's the Patriots. They're coming off the bye. Gronk is as cheap as he's ever been, I believe. He's 5,100. There's legit concerns about this offense, about Brady, about how he performs when he's being blitzed. It's been a weird year for them. There is, the narratives about, Belichick with a week of preparation, blah, blah, blah. What's your read on the Pats in this game from a DFS perspective?
I mean, I think the Patriots are going to quiet a lot of people this week. Yeah, they've struggled on offense, but they've also been struggling with their health to a lot of their core offensive players. This is the first time they're going to have, Gordon, Edelman, Gronk, Sonny Michel, James White. Like the whole cupboard is going to be there for this game. And I think that Tom Brady definitely has a shot to be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate. Really hasn't had like that monster game that we're used to seeing. And certainly the Jets, I feel like always play him tough. The Jets do blitz, which, Brady has struggled with this year. But like if there was a week where Belichick and Brady were going to kind of just take the training wheels off and just remind everyone who one of the best teams are in the whole league, it could be this week against the division rival.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. Who from like a matchup perspective, because there are lots of pass catchers. If we do want to buy into the Pats bouncing back in a big way, which I do, it's where do we go? Do we go Gronk? Do we go Edelman? Do we go Gordon? Do we sprinkle in James White? Do we think it's going to be a Sonny Michel game? So where are you leaning for these players?
I would say that I like Edelman the best. I mean, he's been really consistent. 10 or more targets each of the last 3 games that he's played in. 17 or more DraftKings points. Obviously, that's come with some of these other guys injured, but I generally don't like to mess with Jamal Adams. He'll definitely be covering Gronk in this game. He's one of the best in the league at covering tight ends. And Gordon has been very boomer bust, and I feel like the boundary corners for the Jets are actually pretty decent, but they've really struggled in the slot, and I would imagine Edelman does a lot of lining up inside this week.
Yeah, no, I like that. Jason brings up a name in the chat that's actually very intriguing for me, a name to bring it back with on the Jets. Seems like the logical guy people want to bring it back with is Enunwa, but I'm actually with Jason here. I'm intrigued with Elijah McGuire's. What's your thoughts on him?
He's been popping like in the models, I feel like, the last few weeks because he has like a decent target share, a decent snap share in the offense. He's seen 30 or more snaps each of the last 2 games, and he's seen 5 or more targets. So he's definitely used a decent amount. It's just a matter of him being able to take that usage and turn it into points, which is always tough in an anemic Jets offense. So, I mean, if he can find the end zone at his price, he's definitely going to crush. And maybe he is the preferred guy that you want to run it back with. It's just really hard to see like really big totals from a guy that's a running back playing for the Jets.
Yeah, no, it does from a tournament perspective. I think it makes a little bit of sense. Like you said, he has a really nice floor. 3 targets his past 2 games, or 6 targets and 5 targets his past 2 games for 3 catches each. He's getting 6 to 7 rush attempts on the ground. If he can get a little bit extra, maybe they want to come out of the bye because he was coming back from that injury. Right. And they seem to be increasing his role. And, Mr. Watch the tape, Mr. Manz, he looks explosive when he touches the ball.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a good player. He was used a lot in college in multiple facets of the game. So wouldn't surprise me if he was the best running back on the Jets, and the Jets were kind of keeping him under wraps until the bye. So definitely reasonable.
Yeah, and you could if everyone who punts running back is punting it with Gus Edwards, McGuire could be kind of a sneaky pivot off that. Not to mention the salary savings, but also get pretty unique. You could jam in some major studs if you get McGuire in your lineup.
Absolutely.
I think, Jason, I like it, dude. I think that might be my favorite punt play of the week as is right now. Let's talk about some defensive action here. Lots of names or teams that we can go to. Is anyone jumping out at you at defense?
I mean, I kind of like the Raiders at stone minimum 2K. Like, I don't think anyone's really going to play them. But I do think that like these kinds of games, like we just talked about Lamar Jackson, I love him, but still obviously very inexperienced as a passer. Threw like a really egregious interception last week against Cincinnati. And these like really run heavy teams, I just think that they struggle to score a lot of points. So I don't think that there's like a huge chance of like a 30-point mega negative spot for Oakland. And Jackson definitely takes sacks. He took 9% of his dropbacks in the preseason went for sacks. So definitely could see some sack upside for Oakland, even though their pass rush isn't very good. So I think at the minimum, you can definitely do a lot worse than the Raiders.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought of that yet, but it does make a lot of sense. I guess the one knock on it would be you don't have much pick six equity, right? If Lamar's not throwing it that much.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, if Oakland can get a lead, I know doesn't seem very likely, but if at some point in the game they can lead, maybe they do throw a little bit more, and then you have access to all those events that you need from a defense to win a tournament.
Yeah, no, I like that. I have been basically, I want to say the past 4 or 5 weeks, I don't think I've played a defense that has cost more than say 2,500 on DraftKings. I guess the team I'm looking to, and it's kind of circling back to what I was just saying about not liking the Giants maybe as much as consensus is, I like the Eagles at home at $2,400. Eli now the most sacked quarterback in the league. I think you're going to get a lot of sacks. Eli's always up for a pick six here and there. And even though that secondary is pretty banged up, I think they can get some pressure on the quarterback and make some plays.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that the Eagles will be one of the chalkier defenses just because they are so cheap and they're a favorite, and the matchup I think is good. I think a lot of people will recognize what you're talking about. So I think that in cash especially, they'll be highly owned, and even in tournaments, I would imagine they're one of the 2 or 3 highest on defenses.
Dang, dude, that once you tell me that my play that I arrived to at my own devices is going to be chalky, that hurts, dude, because I pride myself on my contrarian takes, Amicsta.
Well, listen, I'm sure you haven't read anything to get there, but some of these early risers, some of these Tuesday, Wednesday article droppers because of Thanksgiving, like they've just arrived at these conclusions early.
That's true. It's true. Jason in the chat brings up a defense in a game we haven't talked a lot about. He likes the Steelers sacking Case Keenum a bunch, putting them in the dirt. What are your thoughts on the Steelers and maybe that game in general?
Steelers defense is definitely in play. I mean, they have had a really good pass rush this year. TJ Watt is amazing. So, the strength of Pittsburgh's defense is definitely their pass rush. It's the only reason that they have been so good overall as a pass defense when quarterbacks have been able to get the ball off. They've definitely struggled. So that's the upside in the defense. There's definitely touchdown equity there. In terms of the game overall, I mean, this is like Steelers on the road is just like it's a narrative that'll never die. Like it's a situation that like every week I'm like, no, like this is the week that Big Ben's gonna throw off the Steelers on the road issues, and it never happens. So I definitely like Denver in this spot. I think that Emmanuel Sanders is in a really good spot. I mean, he's playing a lot out of the slot. He's definitely the preferred target in the offense with Demaryius Thomas gone. So he's one of my favorite receiver plays. I think that like if I'm looking to play somebody out of this game, it's definitely Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, dude, I've played Emmanuel Sanders the past 2 weeks. I've always liked his spot ever since DT left, and he's been just a little disappointing. He had that monster game in week 7, and then weeks 8, 9, and 11, he hasn't cleared 10 DraftKings points. So it does feel like the game is setting up nicely, and the Steelers are better on the outside. So I like him and Hireman to maybe have better than expected games. On that note, if we do like the Broncos D is 2,300, and you're getting Road Ben. They got to be in play as well then, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, the Jags last week were great, right? Like the multiple interceptions, getting after Roethlisberger. So these like home defenses playing against the Steelers, there's definitely a good trend there. And the Broncos have still been a really good defense. Like they're still elite against the pass. They've struggled more against the run than they have in past years, but who cares about run defense, right? Doesn't even matter. So we'll take the pass rush and we'll take the upside at such low price.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I used the Jags D last week in every single one of my my lineups, and it was even a lot better until the very end. They had that drive where they scored at the end. But yeah, it's hard to imagine getting burned too hard with Big Ben on the road. All right, Anthony's, it is now time for the part of the show where we whip our dicks out and I challenge you to the 69 challenge. I know you're familiar with the contest. Do you accept the week 12 challenge from Manz?
Yeah, and I mean, Manz, I don't want to feel myself too much, but I am 1-0 in the 69 challenge with you. So you got some catching up to do here.
That's right. We've had a couple repeat guests this year and a couple guests who are now 2-0 all time, and you could potentially join that club. I'm on a little bit of a downswing here with my 69 challenges. I beat Davis back in like week 4 and haven't gotten it also, but you know what? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it this week. I know you like to get a little contrarian too, and Meeks does. Maybe you get a little too cute in the 69 challenge and the Man's pounces.
Well, I mean, obviously, since you were in a rut, like you had to scoop the fish in the lobby with Davis, and that's how you ended up getting your dub. I do not plan on going down so easily. I look forward to the challenge.
That's right. That's right. Look, I am not posting head-to-heads anymore. I'm not doing it, but Man's Nation, if you want to send me a head-to-head, I will play you head-to-head. Just message me on Twitter or whatever. Let me know your username and that you want to duke it out with the Mans, and I will play you. But I'm no more of this spray and pray cash game man stuff. My brain is too contrarian for these cash games, dude, and I'm leaving points on the table.
I think that's the way to go. I think cash games are becoming harder and harder. I'm not playing them really anymore, so I'm on board.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Jason, we can't give away my strategy, but he does say Kyle Juszczyk is the key to the 69 challenge this week. He may or may not be right. Amicsta's, thank you for coming on the show, dude. I had a tweet pulled up because you listed your entire stream schedule. You got Mondays, you do Monday Night Football props, picks, and showdown. Tuesday, you review your lineup from the week before. Wednesday, you got the podcast on the daily DFS show on RotoJizz, laying the points, sports betting show. Thursdays, you do previews. Saturdays, you got picks against the spread. Did I miss anything there?
Well, Sunday morning, we have the stream that's going to basically just go over the whole slate Sunday mornings at 8:15. So that's one of the better shows of the week, and definitely one to check out if you're an early riser like myself.
That's right. Yeah, no, you guys got a nice little train going on. We got you, we got Holkas, we got Moras, we got Smiz. Did I miss anyone there? Oh, Hodge.
Yeah, of course, Hodge the GOAT.
Yeah, dude. So you guys are all set on Sundays. I don't know why. I just don't like the Twitch platform that much. I prefer my YouTubes, but I love seeing you guys over there. And it's we are in a heyday for live stream DFS content, I would say.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the days of content creators having to work just for like a company or a website, I think those days are gone. I think a lot of people can freelance. That's what guys like Holka have been trying to do, and they're doing a great job. So I'm definitely trying to get in on that space.
Nice, nice. Yeah, you guys definitely check out Amicsta. We have links to his YouTube channel, and you can follow him on Twitter. Amicsta, he posts links to all of his Twitch and when he goes live, the schedule, all that jazz. Thank you, Amicsta, for hopping on during your holiday. It's going to be a good week 12. I can feel it. So for Anthony Amicsta, for me, I have an announcement. I have a special announcement. Yes. Tonight, I am pinch hinting for Ben Gretsch on the Roto World Game Night Roto Grinders DFS show. I believe it's 9:30 Eastern. It's Mr. Brunch Father himself, Matt Kelly's, Eric McClung's guest of this program and big friend of the show, and the Man's holding it down on Roto Grinders, talking some Week 12 DFS.
Oh, I love it. That's going to be can't miss.
That's going to be can't miss. You guys can tune in to that. That'll be fun tonight. Otherwise, have a great Week 12, and we'll catch you guys back here for Week 13. Get paid, get laid.